the Obama era today and the days right ahead of the inauguration. Let's bring in Rich Karlgaard. He's a publisher of Forbes magazine. Also, Jim LeCamp of RBC Wealth Management, Jack Gage, associate editor, Forbes, and Peter Schiff, Euro-Pacific Capital. Rich Karlgaard, I want to begin with you. There's a lot of instances of, dishonesty, cognitive dissonance, outright lying. I'm not quite done with the Steve Jobs story, at least for our program tonight. Again, as I have said last evening and before, we wish Mr. Jobs well. We pray for him and his terrible illness. But the reality is he is not, nor are his spokespeople, being honest about that illness, and millions of people who own his shares are suffering as a result. Is this another example of why the public is turned off, whether it's politicians, CEO, the church, or whatever?
Well, it could be, Larry. With Steve Jobs, we're talking about somebody who ranks with Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Walt Disney as an American icon. And consequently, we've allowed him to get away with stuff that others do not get away with. There's a guy who's been convicted of 10 counts of options backdating, Greg Reyes of Brocade, who's on appeal right now, and Steve Jobs did the same thing a number of years ago, and he got away with it. So we've always given him a little bit of a pass, and here we saw on January 5th, he said that he was just suffering a minor hormonal imbalance, and then yesterday the big bombshell. So, yeah, there are going to be massive shareholder lawsuits over this, and that's just too bad.
See, that's the thing. Right there. Again, Peter Schiff, I have the greatest admiration for the brilliance of Steve Jobs. Absolutely. And as far as his illness is concerned, it's terrible. We all wish him well. We all pray for him. But what Rich Karlgaard just said, you can't say one thing one week and then completely reverse it in the next. And that is what our politicians have done. That is what too many people in banks and corporations have done for too long. And I want Obama somehow, I don't know how, maybe it starts at the top, to change this culture, Peter. Is such a thing possible?
Well, how's he going to change it? He's reinforcing it. How are we supposed to trust anything when there's no transparency, there's no market forces at work? You've got the government bailing everybody out. You've got the Federal Reserve buying up assets behind the scenes. Nobody knows what any of these companies are worth. How can anybody trust anybody's financial reporting? Until we get the government out of the way and let the market work, why should anybody trust anything?
Let me go to Jim LeCamp. Jim, I want to stay with this theme. Let me move away from Steve Jobs. You have this Bank of America announcement, all right? Are we supposed to believe that they didn't know that the Merrill assets were lousy when they did their due diligence last autumn? Or maybe they didn't do their due diligence, in which case they're either stupid or they lied. Are we supposed to know that Bernie Madoff was actually running a real fund, or was he just a sociopathic fraudster? And let me add another recent one. This guy, Tim Geithner, and I support Geithner for the treasurer. I basically like him. But he did not pay his payroll taxes while he worked at the IMF. He says he didn't know, it was too confusing, but he knew enough to take a sleepaway camp deduction for his kids, which turned out to be illegal. Now, what do you make of this, Jim LeCamp? These are recent episodes of the kind of dishonesty and lack of ethics and morality that has demoralized America. Can Obama change this, Jim?
No, he can't. He took over $100,000 from Fannie and Freddie when he was a politician. And that's the problem with our whole system. It's an auctionocracy. We have these special interest groups, these political action committees that are reinforcing re-elections on an ongoing basis so no incumbents get kicked out, and all of a sudden all these votes are being bought. And if you want to talk about Wall Street and Bank of America, this is really troubling because it's almost like, hey, we don't care that we're overpaying for Countrywide when everybody else was saying you're overpaying for Countrywide. We don't care that we're overpaying for Merrill when everybody else was saying you overpaid for Merrill.
But that's
because
a financial
we know the government.
Decision. That's a technical financial decision. Look, Jack
no, it's
Gage,
not. It's
hang
because
on a second.
No, here's
Merrill,
the problem,
hang on
though.
A second. Adam Smith, in The Wealth of Nations, and earlier in The Theory of Moral Sentiments, said, free market capitalism, as he defined it way back then in the 18th century Scottish Glasgow Enlightenment, he said it must have an ethical and moral center. I am calling for that. I think this is a crucial aspect. It is more important than the financial, technical issues. Can Obama, through his speeches and through his actions, improve upon that? Why need we be so pessimistic on this eve of the Obama administration?
Absolutely. Look, I hope that Obama can carry over from the campaign, the inspiration, and the way he rallied a lot of the troops to his side. But I have to tell you, I'm worried about the way he's going to govern and the people he's going to put in charge. I think there is an opportunity to sew up some of the goodwill that is left out there, but this slowly chips away at it. You look at the Steve Jobs thing, you look at some of the other mistrust that's developed in the market. It has to be fast,
Peter,
it has to be robust.
If Geithner doesn't explain